Long before smartphones, websites, and Wi-Fi, the world was connected in a very different way. If you wanted to send a message, you wrote a letter on paper. It might take days or weeks to arrive. If it was urgent, you could try the telephone, but the line had to be free, and calls overseas were expensive and unreliable. In offices, fax machines buzzed and beeped, turning sheets of paper into signals and sending them down the line. Communication was slow, clunky, and limited. People lived with delays, and the world moved at a much slower pace. But something was changing beneath the surface. In the 1960s, a group of researchers and military scientists began asking bold questions. Could computers talk to each other? Could we build a system where information could move freely without relying on a central authority? These ideas weren't just theoretical. They were driven by real-world needs, especially during the Cold War. If one communication center was destroyed, how could the military still send and receive information? That's where the U.S. Department of Defense stepped in, launching a project that would change history. The project was called ARPANET, short for Advanced Research Projects Agency Network. At first, it connected only 4 computers in 4 different universities. It wasn't fancy. There were no browsers, no graphics, no sounds, just machines exchanging data in small bursts called packets. But it worked. For the first time, computers in different places could share information across a network. And with that, the seeds of the Internet were quietly planted. As ARPANET began to grow, so did the possibilities. Scientists and researchers from different universities started using the network to send files, messages, and ideas. They no longer had to rely on physical mail or wait for conferences to share their work. Suddenly, collaboration across long distances became easier and faster. By the early 1970s, more universities and research labs had joined ARPANET, and it was no longer just a government tool. It was becoming a space for knowledge exchange. But there was still a big problem. There were other networks, too, and they couldn't talk to each other. Each network used its own communication rules, like different languages with no translator. That meant if one computer was on ARPANET and another was on a different network, they couldn't connect. The dream of a truly global network was still far away. That's when 2 computer scientists, Vint Cerf and Bob Kahn, came up with a solution that would change everything: TCP/IP. These protocols, Transmission Control Protocol and Internet Protocol, acted like a universal language for computers. No matter what kind of network you were on, if you followed TCP/IP, you could connect. Think of it as building a giant bridge between islands. On January 1st, 1983, ARPANET officially switched over to TCP/IP, and the Internet as we know it was born. It wasn't flashy. It didn't make headlines, but it worked. And now more networks could connect to each other using a shared language, opening the door to something far greater than anyone could imagine. Even though the Internet now existed in a technical sense, it was still invisible to most people. It was mostly used by scientists, researchers, and government employees. There were no colorful websites or social media apps, just lines of code, raw data, and text-based communication. Most people had never heard the word Internet at all. That began to change in the late 1980s and early 1990s, thanks to one man, Tim Berners-Lee, a British computer scientist working at CERN in Switzerland. He saw a problem. Scientific information was stored in different places, and it was hard access. Every system had its own rules, making it difficult for researchers to share their findings easily. What if there was a simpler way to link everything together? Tim had an idea. He imagined a space where documents could be connected using something called hyperlinks, clickable text that could take you to another document instantly. He built a new system using a few simple tools: HTML hypertext markup language, HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol, and URLs, Uniform Resource Locators. He called it the World Wide Web. In 1991, the first website went live. It was plain with no images or colors, but it worked. Users could click on links and jump from one page to another. For the first time, the internet had a face, and it was something people could understand. The web made the internet useful for everyone, not just for scientists, and that changed everything. Once the World Wide Web became public, things moved fast, faster than anyone expected. By the mid-1990s, software developers started creating web browsers to make the internet easier to use. The first popular one was Mosaic, followed by Netscape Navigator, and later Internet Explorer. These programs let people explore websites with just a few clicks. Suddenly, the internet wasn't just for experts. It was for students, teachers, artists, and everyday people. Businesses quickly saw the potential. Companies built websites to showcase products. News organizations began publishing articles online. Email became the new normal for communication, replacing letters and even phones in many cases. Families could stay in touch across countries. People could search for information, learn new skills, and discover worlds they never knew existed. Then came the search engines, tools like Yahoo and Alta Vista, which helped users find websites in the growing digital jungle. But it wasn't until Google launched in 1998 that the way we searched truly changed. Google's clean design and smart algorithms made it easy to find anything, whether you wanted to learn about volcanoes, look up a recipe, or understand quantum physics. And of course, there was email. Suddenly, a message could be sent across the world in seconds. It didn't cost anything, and it didn't need a stamp. For businesses, it meant speed. For friends and families, it meant connection. For students, it meant access to teachers, ideas, and opportunities they couldn't reach before. By the year 2000, the internet had become a part of daily life, and it was just getting started. As the internet matured, it began to reshape how we interact, not just with information, but with each other. In the early 2000s, websites became more than static pages. People could now create, share, and respond. This was the rise of the social web, and it changed everything again. Platforms like MySpace, Friendster, and later Facebook allowed people to build online profiles, share their lives, and connect with others. The idea of having a digital identity was born. Suddenly, you didn't just use the internet to read, you used it to speak, to share, and to be seen. At the same time, YouTube launched in 2005, making it easy for anyone to upload and watch videos. Ordinary people became creators. Education, entertainment, and inspiration were available on demand. Music videos, documentaries, vlogs, and tutorials spread across the globe, free and fast. Twitter followed in 2006, giving people a new way to share ideas quickly. In just 140 characters, a message could spark conversation or controversy. Instagram, TikTok, and other platforms brought visuals to the front. Photos, short videos, memes, these became the language of the new internet generation. Behind all this change was the same basic structure. Networks of computers speaking the same language built on the foundation of TCP/IP and the World Wide Web. But what had started as a tool for scientists had now become the beating heart of modern life. Every part of the human experience, love, learning, politics, business, began to pass through the screen. The internet was no longer something we visited. It was somewhere we lived. The transformation didn't stop with social media. The rise of smartphones turned the internet into something we could carry in our pockets. With devices like the iPhone in 2007, people no longer had to sit in front of a computer to go online. They could browse the web, send emails, stream videos, and chat with friends, all while walking, commuting, or lying in bed. This led to the explosion of apps, small, powerful programs that did one thing very well. Whether it was ordering food, learning a language, tracking your health, or finding a date, there was suddenly an app for everything. Developers all over the world built tools that could reach millions in seconds. The internet had gone mobile and global. Education changed too. Platforms like Khan Academy, Coursera, and YouTube made knowledge more accessible than ever. Students in remote villages could now learn from the same lessons as those in top universities. People no longer needed a classroom to grow, they just needed a connection. Meanwhile, e-commerce exploded. Amazon, eBay, and later thousands of online stores reshaped how we shop. With a few taps, you could buy anything from anywhere. Businesses that adapted thrived. Those that didn't, many disappeared. The internet was not just a tool, it was an economic force. Even work changed. Remote jobs, video calls, and online collaboration became normal. Teams spread across continents could now build, plan, and create together in real time. The world became smaller, faster, and more connected. All this made possible by the invisible threads of the internet. But with all the benefits came new challenges. As the internet grew, so did concerns about privacy, security, and truth. People began to realize that every click, every search, every message left a trace. Companies collected this data, sometimes to improve services, but sometimes to manipulate opinions or sell personal information. Cybercrime also became a threat. Hackers stole identities, leaked sensitive files, and shut down entire systems. Governments and corporations had to build stronger defenses. At the same time, individuals had to learn how to protect themselves online, using strong passwords, two-factor authentication, and common sense. Another challenge was misinformation. With billions of voices online, it became harder to tell what was true. Anyone could publish anything, and algorithms often pushed the loudest voices to the top, regardless of accuracy. Fake news, conspiracy theories, and viral lies could spread faster than facts. In response, digital literacy became essential. People had to learn not just how to use the internet, but how to think critically within it. Despite these problems, the internet remained one of humanity's most powerful inventions. It had connected billions, broken down borders, and unlocked an era of creativity and collaboration unlike any before. People could share their stories, start movements, build businesses, and find communities, even if they felt alone in the real world. In just a few decades, the internet had gone from a military experiment to a global lifeline, woven into every part of our daily lives. And the story isn't over yet.